Hi, welcome to HTML5 session. Today we are going to discuss about a new element or tag called SVG. The full form is very simple, scalar vector graphic. So before we get into what exactly is this, let us see one sample demo for this one. So here is that a very simple demo of SVG. What it is doing is that using SVG it will create some nice image and graphic. So either you can use the rendering by Flash or you can use the SVG renderer which is coming in the browser. So here it comes like this. Now if you want something to sporty car, nice. Now this whole thing is done by simple HTML and JavaScript. Isn't it unbelievable? Because it looks like an image, right? But this is not a photograph or image which is clicked by camera. It is all done by HTML and JavaScript using the SVG technique. Now, if you want to display something more interesting, you can even draw a tiger using just SVG technique. This is not an image, this is just a graphic done using HTML and JavaScript. It is not a JPEG file or PNG file, it is just a script based image. So that is the power which SVG brings to the table. If you are new to SVG, SVG is not a new concept in HTML5, but in HTML5 SVG has been also included and the features have been improved. So that's why I just wanted to include SVG. And there is one more thing which is similar thing called Canvas, which is completely new to HTML5, but unless you get a hang of SVG, it is not a good idea to go to Canvas. So let us first understand this new HTML5 tag called SVG. Okay. So you have seen one example. So SVG stands for scalar vector graphic. Very simple, scalable vector graphic. And it is a language for describing 2D graphics and graphical application in XML format, and then this XML is rendered by an SVG viewer. So what exactly happens is that you define the complete drawing in an XML format, and that XML format is rendered by an SVG viewer which is there in all HTML5 supporting browsers. Okay. Now SVG is mostly useful for vector type diagrams like pie charts, two-dimensional graph in an XY coordinate system, etc. SVG became a W3C recommendation long time back in 2003, and it has been there in 3 and 4 as well in HTML versions, but now in HTML5 it has been included as well. Now let us see what are the SVG elements from the what are the various types of SVG elements which are supported in HTML5. First, you can draw a rectangle including optional rounded corners. You can have a rectangle with a sharp edges in the corner or the rounded corners. You can have circle tag, we can have ellipse tag, line tag, polyline tag, polygon tag, and for all the list of all the elements and attributes in FGB, you can also refer to this specification, which will give you what are the various kinds of shape we can create. So using these, you can create a circle, ellipses, straight lines, polylines, polygons, rectangle, whatever you want to declare. Now how to do that? We will see in just few minutes, few seconds. So let us see first example. So what we are going to do is that we are going to create some simple 2D graphic image using SVG. So we will start with doc type HTML because that is the declaration of HTML5. Start the HTML tag head. Meta charset you can put, you can remove it, otherwise that is a default. Title is red square in SVG. Now here it starts the body, nothing much. Here is the interesting thing. So first thing what it starts with, start with a SVG tag, and you give a width and height, that in what area it will draw that SVG. So this is the kind of a area of drawing that your graphic. After that you can declare a tag called rectangle. Okay, so declare this tag rectangle and say that x 10 pixel, y 10 pixel. Okay, so what is x and y? X is horizontal, y is vertical, and then width will be 250 pixel and height will be 250 pixel. So x is horizontal, that is the length of the line 10 pixel, y is the vertical line, that is 10 pixel, width is 250 pixel, height is 250 pixel. Now here there is two interesting things. One is called fill, other is called stroke. What is the meaning of fill and stroke? Fill means the color by which you want to fill inside the rectangle. Stroke means the color by which you want to draw the boundary of the rectangle. So what it will draw? It will draw a red rectangle. Basically, although I am using a rectangle, since I am providing x and width and height as same, it will be a square. So what it will do is that it will create a red color rectangle with black color boundary. Stroke width is 10 pixel, and then close the SVG. So this is what your SVG looks like, very simple, and then simple body and HTML. Now once you have created this HTML file in your computer, try to run it and it should show you something like this output called this one. So this is the output which you will see for this one. Now here it is just explaining the fill means the color used to fill inside the shape, and stroke means the color used for the boundary of the shape. So that is what same you can do here, circle. And what is this x and y? Sorry about this, we did this one wrong. X and y is the coordinate from where it will start, where it will draw. So this is the position, not the width or anything, the position. Position of rectangle. So this is basically this coordinate. Okay, position of rectangle, x 10 pixel is starting from the top left corner. What is the coordinate of x and y? Okay. Now let us see another example of SVG. Here we are going to use, instead of rectangle, we are going to create a radial gradient. What it means is that a circle where in a radial direction there is a gradient which is provided. Okay. Now what is this x, y, r, IDG? we'll just see this. This is the location. What we do is that we say that RGB is 255, 255, 0. This is the another color. This is the another color. So offset is 0, 0.7, 0.7. Offset is 1 and radial gradient. Now using this SVG, you are also creating a rectangle of width 100%. So what it means is that in the width and height, it will be same like this one. Okay. So this width and this height is same as this width and this height. Fill the URL with G. So what I am going to do is that I will create two objects. One is rectangle, and inside that I will fill this. This is same like this. So what it means is that I am saying that create a rectangle with width 100% and height 100% of this SVG, and inside that you fill this object called ID G with ID equals to 0. So this object will be put inside this rectangle, and then close the SVG, body and HTML, and you run this. Once you run this, the output of this SVG example will look like this. Okay. So if you want to draw a glowing sun, it is very simple to draw using SVG techniques in HTML5. You can try this code and then you can take it from there. Now let us see that there is another concept which is a completely new tag. It is new. There is a new tag. Okay. There is a new tag. Now canvas tag is used also for creating 2D graphics, but it has been designed in such a way that in future it can be used for the 3D graphic as well. And this is also used for a lot of animations and games, HTML5 based. You might have seen the lot of games and animation using HTML5. Most of them are using canvas concept in it. Let us see one example of canvas demo 1. So what we will do is that we will just see one example of canvas. Okay. So this is what I have created using canvas for HTML5. Now how to create it, we will just see in the code itself. Now let us first understand about canvas tag. Canvas tag is basically little different from SVG, scalable vector graphics, that in scalable vector graphics all the things was done through HTML tags and attributes which get converted to XML, and that XML is rendered by the SVG viewer of browser. But in canvas tag, complete rendering of images are done through JavaScript. So what it means is that we have to declare a element called canvas to mark a area of your page where that graphic will display, and actual rendering of graphic will be done through the script which you will write. Now it was introduced, this concept is not new. It was introduced in other web browsers and other engines, but in desktop HTML, in desktop browser, all the browser as a standard and consistent, it is recently introduced. Painting is done mostly using, so here is the most important part. Painting is done mostly using JavaScript, which is opposite to SVG. Okay. So here in SVG it is done through all HTML tags, elements and attributes which get converted to XML, but here it is all through JavaScript. Now let us understand a little bit about the basic concept of canvas. So it says that canvas ID equals to example, width equals to 250, height equals to 250, and you put some default text. In case the browser does not support canvas element, this text will be displayed. So this is the text. It is used for backward compatibility. In case you are developing a web page using canvas tag or element, but browser may not support it, then you can display this default text. So this is for backward compatibility. Okay, backward compatibility. Now default text used for agents that cannot interpret canvas. Agents mean browser. Use JavaScript code to define a so-called context object. This guy is the most important one, context object. We will see that. All the work is done by context object in the referenced canvas tag ID. Colors defined by red, green, blue values or a small set of named colors. Now in canvas it is all about context object. If you want to understand that how canvas works, just understand what is context object. The canvas context object is the sole and only thing which does all the magic of drawing everything. So one of the recommendations I generally say is that if you really want to use canvas to do the graphic and animation, please go ahead and read this specification. The 2D context object represents a flat Cartesian surface. So basically when the context object created, it is creating a 2D context object, a Cartesian surface whose origin 0, 0 is at the top left corner with the coordinate space having x values increasing when going right and y values increasing when going down. Sorry. So here is all about context object. Currently browsers support 2D object, but in future it will also support 3D drawings using canvas. Here the same concept of stroke versus fill. A stroke is which is on the boundary, the color used for boundary. Fill is inside the graphic or image. You can draw rectangle, arcs or lines. So using this three technique, you will draw all the things. So there is no fixed standard and it gives you much more power to draw the lines and graphs, etc. You might want to go and look into all the context object API. Context object is basically a JavaScript object. And JavaScript object, like any other objects or classes, have various methods and arguments. You can go and check. Context object is extremely powerful and rich API. Using that you can develop canvas object. Now let us have a sample HTML5 page using canvas element or tag. So what we will do is that we will start with doc type HTML as usual, HTML head. Here is that where the magic starts. So far what we were doing is that we were going inside the body and using the elements and their attributes to create HTML page. But this time I am going to start developing some script which is JavaScript. So here is a JavaScript which function draw, and it says that canvas equals to document.get element by id canvas. So this is the just to get the ID of the HTML page, which we will see later. If canvas.get context. So what this line does, this line check whether the browser supports context object or not. So this line is to check what does it check? It checks whether your browser supports get context or context object or not. If it supports, then go ahead and create a context object. So this is your context object. Okay, so this is the context object. Now once the context object is created, you can call context.fillStyle RGB, this one, context.fillRectangle. So basically you are just saying that fill style this, and then using that style, when you say fill rectangle, it will use this value to create it. So fill a rectangle with a starting point 10 10, end point, diagonal point 220 220. So this is the way you provide where to draw that rectangle and what will be the length and width, and you close it. So very simple. I am just doing this, and this is where the canvas ID I will declare. Now this is, you come, what I am saying is that canvas ID equals to canvas. So basically the connection between this and this is this ID, right? This is the same ID used here. Okay. So what it is doing is that body on load draw. What it means is, the moment the HTML page will load this body, it will call draw function, and this will control will come here. Okay. And when it comes here, it will start executing. So first it will say get element by ID canvas. So basically this will create a Cartesian surface with 0 0 in the left side, and width is 250, height is 250. Okay. And then in 10 10, 220 220 he will create. So this is what a simple canvas square you can draw. When you run this one, so all drawings are done by context object CTX. So that is very careful. This is what it will draw. Okay. Very simple, and you can, but using these concepts you can always draw much more complicated and complex graphic. Here is another example how to use canvas to draw various squares in the various part of the HTML page. You can start the same way. The sample code for this one is in the next here. Stroke rectangle have a different color. So this basically this, and every time you say stroke rectangle or fill style fill rectangle, see fill rectangle, what is this? This is XY coordinate, this is length width. This is XY coordinate, this is length and height, width and height. Okay. Fill rectangle like this. A stroke rectangle, don't fill anything in the between, but just the boundary. This is the XY coordinate. Okay. XY coordinate, width, height, XY coordinate, width, height, XY coordinate, width, height, XY coordinate, width, height. So that is the way the 4 rectangles are done. One rectangle is done here, one is done here, one is done here, one is done here. And what is these two? These two are just putting the color. Okay. And inside this same, he is doing in the same element, get element by ID canvas dot get context 2D. So the same thing, canvas ID, it is connecting there, and on load init. It means when the body is loaded, it will call the init method, which is defined inside the script, and then it gets executed. In case the browser does not support canvas element or tag, you can always display this message, your browser does not support the HTML5 element canvas. So whatever you put between this and this only get displayed, and this line, your browser does not support the HTML5 element canvas, will only get supported if the browser does not support this tag called canvas. Now here is a canvas summary, very simple. The drawing is done in the init function, which is called when the body tag is loaded. The canvas tag with ID equals to canvas does not exist until the body is loaded. So you have to make sure that that script get called only when the body is loaded and that canvas object is created. Default color is black, red, green, blue values each are 0 to 255, 8 bits of intensity. The stroke style and the fill style are attributes, not methods. Drawings are paint on the canvas. These rectangles are not object. See that this is most important. Okay, so this is very important. Rectangles are not objects to be moved or referenced later. So it is not like that those rectangles are independent objects which you can move to somewhere else or you can refer later to do something. Once drawn, it is drawn. If you want to clear, that is the only way you can do it. You can say context.clear rectangle method to erase it. Now you have read about or you have understood about scalable vector graphic and canvas object. Now which one is better? SVG is better or canvas is better? Here is just simple recommendation and ideas. You should use canvas for interactive image editing, generating raster graphic, image analysis, rendering game. So what it says is that anything which has a lot of animation and graphic, especially a lot of animation, you should go with canvas. If it is SVG, it is basically for data charts and plots, something which is not there lot of animation, because it has to change the XML, and once XML is created, you cannot change it. You can only create another XML object. So something which does not require very frequent dynamic movement or motion, for that SVG is good. But if you need lot of movement or animation in the graphic or image, canvas is much better. Okay.